When recording, you should record at the highest possible level without clipping. In this video, I'm going to explain why this is wrong and what level you should be recording at instead. Hey everyone, Joe here. Firstly, let's go over exactly what I mean by level, because the term gets used in all sorts of aspects of audio. Level is the overall amount of audio signal going into your audio interface, and in turn your DAW. Bobcats defines it as intensity, but it doesn't really mean anything unless you have a certain value to go with it, for example decibels, which is what we're referring to today. Put simply, think of level as the volume of audio that's going into your system when recording. So in the intro, I said that we'd been told to set the input level so that the recording is as loud as possible without it hitting that 0 decibel mark, without it clipping. Now this way of thinking worked quite well back in the days of all analog gear, but in the digital domain, it doesn't really work quite so well, and I'll explain why. In the days of analog gear and recording to tape, the noise floor was much more of a problem. You couldn't get away with recording things at too low of a volume without it sounding noisy, basically. So you wanted to avoid recording too quietly. And on the other end of it, pushing a lot of signal through an analog preamp could actually have quite a nice sort of natural distortion effect, sort of like you might get with a guitar amp. It can add warmth and color, especially with a tube preamp. But in the digital domain, the noise floor is just not really an issue. As long as you record in a sufficient bit depth, you can have plenty of dynamic range available to record pretty quietly. And again, on the top end of it, if you push a lot of signal into a digital system and hit that 0 dB mark, you're going to get digital clipping, which sounds horrible. Knowing that, you can understand why you'd want to keep away from that 0 dB mark when recording, but what level should you be recording at? I recommend that when recording in your digital home studio, you should be setting your levels so that your audio is peaking at around sort of -12, maybe -10 decibels. And when I say peaking, I mean that when you're setting the gain knob on your audio interface, you play or sing the loudest part that you're going to be recording, and that should be reaching no more than around -12 decibels on your DAW. And if you're peaking in that region, then you're probably going to be getting around an average of around -16, maybe to -20, just as you play the quieter or the medium level sections. But of course, that's going to depend greatly on what you're recording. And pay attention to the lights on your audio interface as well, not just your DAW. Most good audio interfaces will have a meter, so you can see some lights, that'd be green or red maybe. On my Focusrite interface, you get a green light showing signal and you get a red light showing when it's clipping. Now, a lot of interfaces are just going to show you that red light when it's clipping, but still, if you play the loudest part of whatever you're going to be playing, if it's clipping, you'll see that red clip light flashing. You want to bring the knob right back so that there's no chance during your performance that it's going to be hitting that clip mark. Now, the specific level that I've given you of -10, -12 dB is not set in stone. Don't worry about it if occasionally it goes sort of 1 or 2 dB over that. It just matters that we're not getting anywhere near 0. So it's a guide. You know that when you're recording at that level, as long as you've sound checked correctly and you haven't sort of held back during the sound check with your performance, you know that you're going to be safe from hitting that 0 dB mark. And don't worry too much either if you're recording something with a lot of dynamic range. So if there are some sections that are much quieter, if you have an outboard compressor, then that can help you even those levels on the way in. But even if you don't, and you've got some sections that are really, really quiet, you can always just turn those up after recording. And if you're recording at a sufficient bit rate of 16, 24-bit, you're not going to have any problems with low-level noise. Recording at these levels will not only avoid clipping, but it will also keep the levels from getting too high in the mix as a whole as you add more and more tracks to it. I've seen some engineers saying that it's not a good idea to record too low because you end up with this kind of thin, anemic-looking waveform on your DAW, and it can be off-putting to clients maybe. It can make them think maybe you're not doing your job properly or something. Well, here's my solution to that. Just zoom in and it will look bigger. So if you do this professionally, if you do get clients and they see that, then they'll have the confidence that you're getting a solid recording, and they'll be able to see better what's going on if they're sort of producing alongside you. I don't agree with changing the way that you record just to make things look nice. It's not important. It's about the result that's important. And if you do have a client that points it out, you haven't zoomed in, and they're concerned about it, you can just, be confident in your knowledge and your abilities, and they will as well. You can just say, you're avoiding clipping, but you've got a very solid recording on there. And again, you can always just zoom it in after just to show them. And that's it for today. I really hope this helped you. Feel free to leave a comment below if there's anything you're still unsure about, or if you don't agree with what I've said in this video. Let's get a conversation going. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more recording tips and training every single week. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.